Welcome to Start with the Dark, a podcast by WITCHy, a space where ancient storytelling meets modern magic, where witches join forces, weaving wisdom through threads and illuminating the unseen. Looking through the lens of the witch wound, which for those of us who don't know, is a fear of being judged, vilified, or labelled as hysterical, a leftover thing from the burning times. Hundreds of years when wise women, healers, and those who dared to know were persecuted, punished, and labelled as evil witches. Are you ready to reclaim your witch? Well, that's absolutely stunning news. Hold on to your witch hat, folks, grab those broomsticks, and let's go reclaim the witch together. On the pilot of Start with the Dark by WITCHy, we'll confront our shadows, recognizing, reclaiming, and soothing the perceived darker sides of us that make up our full selves. By the end of Season 1, we're aiming to equip your magic spell box with at least a sprinkling of the knowledge and mystical tools that are useful to living your most authentic life. And, as we know that magic spreads through threads, we're on the hunt for mystical hosts, guests, and stories to share in our pod. If you're a self-proclaimed witch, feel seen by hearing tales of oppression, magic, and liberation, then WITCHy is the pod for you. Do you want to conjure up your own magic by understanding each and every part of your beautiful soul? Well then, witches, let's embark on a witchy wellness rebellion together. Aish lesh on scale, or listen to the story. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Carl Jung. The shadow can represent both negative and positive traits of yourself that you may repress or disown. Some negative traits include jealousy, anger, insecurity, selfishness, or shame. And some positive traits include hidden talents, creativity, or assertiveness, things you might have been told were bad growing up. Think back to any moment in your life when someone or something hurt you. Were you unjustly called bad, hysterical, or angry? Did you process and heal these moments, or did you purposely suppress and repress them? If the latter is true, then you very likely did these things to feel safe, to survive, and because you didn't know what else to do at the time. But if you choose to continue ignoring your shadow, it's guaranteed to present itself in unhelpful ways throughout your life. Now, listen up, magical witches. Before we fly into witching hour, pardon the pun, we want to share an important message for today and beyond on setting the scene of witches storytelling. The hosts and guests of this podcast are not in any way, unless clearly stating otherwise, claiming to be an expert of the topics we discuss, but rather, witches sharing musings from truth seekers on a lifelong journey on a mission to bring magic to many. WITCHy is, and always will be, a group of witches in training. WITCHy is a powerful collective of voices, constantly learning and unlearning, gathering and sharing knowledge and spreading magic through threads. Please seek professional medical care and guidance wherever needed. WITCHy is a supernatural coven sharing our own personal experiences on the teachings imparted by spiritual mentors and the lessons gifted to us through the difficult challenges we've endured along the way. WITCHy remains and always will represent students of the mystical. WITCHy is a safe space to unveil self-truths, explore mystical worlds, and muse on what might be. So, with that in mind, and when listening to WITCHy, we ask that you pretty please take what resonates with you, perhaps pack it away in your personal magic box, and leave behind what doesn't, preferably evaporating in an imaginary bubbling cauldron. Right, wonderful witches. Let's begin the episode with a quote from shadow pioneer Carl Jung. Those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken. With those wise words from Jung in mind, what if we told you that you possess the power to see the universe as your oracle, that you're your own alchemist, that you're capable of transmuting fear into power and darkness into light? Well, the truth is, you can. I'm your Season 1 host, and for our first ever episode, our witchy spellbooks open on, shall we say, some of the perceived darker pages of self-love. We'll dig into a side that everyone has, but one that is mostly misunderstood, and usually driven by fear. We tend to mostly keep this side hidden from even those who we love and trust most in this world. Have you guessed what we're on about yet? You've got it. It's the shadow. But what exactly is a shadow? The shadow is a concept coined by shadow pioneer Carl Jung. It's a version or side of you that might unconsciously sabotage your life. Shadow work integrates the unconscious with the conscious. We've chosen this topic for our pilot episode as we notice that a lot of the spiritual community tends to focus on love and light. But persistently focusing on only the live, laugh, love sides of life isn't real life. It's toxic positivity, and we'll be having none of that here. Have you heard of the live, laugh, love quote? We're sure you have. But did you know that, number one, what James Joyce actually said was, they lived, laughed, loved, and left. Meaning that death is an inevitable part of life. We must embrace it along with the joys and beautiful parts of life. But the Bloody Light Brigade decided to rebrand the truth to surface level fakery. Love and light is something that we believe is only half of the truth of the beauty of living life. And number two, focusing on only the positive, happy, light sides of life is absolute frog poo when, in fact, all humans are made up of two matters, both light and dark. And when we fail to recognize the perceived dark parts of ourselves, we thus deny the important half of us that coexists with the light. And when we do that, we're essentially denying ourselves to live our most authentic lives. Think of the yin and yang symbol. It's both white and dark. Think of night and day, the sun and the moon. In each case, both are true and neither exists without the other. By hiding or suppressing the darker sides of ourselves, we're denying half of ourselves. We believe that it's harmful to push down the sides of us that we may have been told were bad or wrong. When we do that, we're telling ourselves the same story over and over again, ignoring the shadow side of our soul that makes up half of who we are. And when shadow is repressed or unacknowledged, it can express itself negatively in your everyday conscious life. So, witches, we invite you, if it's safe to do so, of course, to sit back, try to relax, sure, make yourself a lovely cup of tea. And as we dig into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff on shadow work, Witch invites you to walk your own journey alongside us. As you do so, first and foremost, please be kind to yourself. Please explore your own shadow with unlimited compassion. When examining your own witch wound, do so gently and through a loving lens. Shadow work is difficult, but it's also necessary for those wanting to reclaim their witch to live their most authentic life. Your shadow. Now, think back to the last time you might have lashed out in, let's say, a regrettable fashion, when you may have acted out of a place of fear instead of a place of your highest good. Maybe you judged a friend and their decisions, even when it's not your place to do so. Or maybe you spread gossip about an old colleague, knowing it wasn't the right karmic choice, but you did so anyway to fit in. If you're being a little too hard on yourself, know that these actions might have come from your shadow and not from your true essence. You see, if you dismiss your negative emotions, push them down, or pretend that they're not real, you'll never be able to understand why you're thinking, feeling, or act in a certain way. After all, we're humans as well as witches. And most of the time, we gotta make mistakes before we can learn how to blossom. Examples of shadow in Ireland's goddesses and witches. Seeing as this is a pod about witchcraft, we thought that it's only right for us to bring some of our witchy inspiration to the forefront of our storytelling. Do you know the story about Ireland's goddess of sovereignty, witchcraft, war, and fate? When in human form, legend says that she's a strong and capable warrior, sometimes holding 2 spears and riding a chariot, topped with flaming red hair. This witch is not to be messed with. The absolute diva, legend, and icon invites confrontation with the shadow, demanding transformation. She chooses truth over comfort, no matter how painful that is. And her presence seeks not to destroy the ego, but rather to expose its limits. Did you guess who we're on about yet? You've got it. It's the Morrigan. The shape-shifting phantom queen usually appears as a crow, wolf, eel, or sometimes even as a heifer. The Morrigan naturally and effortlessly embodies the repressed, feared, and often unacknowledged parts of our psyche. She's a mirror for what we know we need to know, what we need to understand about ourselves. But we're often too afraid to accept or learn these sides of ourselves, ultimately delaying transformation and rebirth. Just like shadow work, as well as radical honesty, The Morrigan's presence demands accountability and endurance through discomfort. The Morrigan is the shadow in divine form. She's a teacher, not a tormentor. She's a mirror reflecting what we must face in our shadow to become our most authentic whole selves, and not what we simply wish to become. The Morrigan's lessons are liberating, brutal, but necessary for those who deign to gain sovereignty, clarity, and power by doing the hard inner work. When we look at the Morrigan and her anger, it's creative versus destructive. She enacts fury rooted in protective justice, exhibited with calm and purposeful action, and she always uses her powers to restore cosmic order. Pretty badass, right? Well, like we said, witches, we're most certainly not an expert on this topic. But if you want to find out more about the Morrigan from a real expert, an Irish author, historian, priest, and trailblazing expert on the Morrigan, head over to the brilliant Morrigan Academy. The Morrigan Academy was founded by self-proclaimed witch themselves, Laura O'Brien. We promise you won't be disappointed. They're even releasing a brand new book on the Morrigan this year. And for anyone who doesn't know, Laura also founded the Ogham Academy. And last but not least, Laura also founded the Irish Pagan School with their partner, John O'Sullivan. They have amazing podcasts and countless hours, if not years, of 100% free resources that are available right at your fingertips. And the best news? Guess what, witches? We interviewed Laura for an upcoming episode on Witch. You won't want to miss it. We'll dive deep into everything about the Morrigan, the truth, the facts, and the lore. Now, let's move on to anger and the shadow self. Have you ever been labelled angry for speaking your truth? Well, righteous anger is completely healthy, particularly when it's served as justice versus vengeance. Think back to the Irish traditional folk healer and herbalist from the 19th century, Biddy Early. Those who hurt or wished harm upon her, her friends, her family, or the poor or vulnerable ran into, shall we say, some trouble of their own. But Biddy's so-called cursing was simply retaliation against acts of injustice. Essentially, she used her powers to teach bad people lessons they deserved, let's be honest. In the context of the moral universe, Biddy used supernatural powers to rebalance the scales of justice, and she didn't do it out of pure malevolence. Now, we're not being asked or paid to speak about Laura O'Brien, but their recent talk on witchcraft and feminism digs deep into the stories of many Irish witches, including Biddy Early. Go and check it out if you can. They're speaking all across Ireland. But bringing us back to the here and now, another example of shadow acting out in real life could be, if you don't recognize your own shadow, you may open yourself up to spiritual gaslighting or projection from others who have also not yet been able to recognize their own shadow. To quickly walk you through some of these terms, spiritual gaslighting equals someone labeling you as dark or full of darkness, advising you to find love and light, and stating that you're angry for simply expressing tales of mistreatment by others. An example of this could be a friend telling you that you're angry over and over again, simply for expressing righteous anger when you're recalling moments of mistreatment and oppression from others. Now, righteous anger is a justifiable feeling of anger. It's often directed at injustice or wrongdoing, and it's considered morally permissible. Righteous anger is fueled by a perception of moral violation and can motivate individuals to take actions to correct the situation. If someone treats you badly, it's definitely okay to be angry at that mistreatment. If someone labels you as angry when you know that your emotion is completely justified, thank them, keep your distance, and move on until you're ready to cross paths again, if that day ever does come. So, if you're not yet comfortable with your own shadow, an angry friend projecting their own anger onto you could easily throw you off. Think about it. You might find yourself believing their words, start being cruel to yourself, and essentially absorbing their anger as your own. But where's the fun in that? Another shadow could be jealousy. Have you ever suppressed feelings of jealousy when in fact what our feelings of jealousy truly represent are thoughts of, ugh, I wish I could do that. Usually we're mostly frustrated with ourselves for not having the courage to do what we really want to do in life. Be that creating social media content to share our lessons and learnings with the world. It might be writing the book we've been thinking of writing for years, or investing time into learning a new skill or hobby, no matter how silly or small it seems. Even taking time to yourself could be labelled as selfish or bad. But we experience jealousy because we're annoyed with others for doing what we want to do for ourselves. Green is the colour of envy after all, but it's also the colour of hope. Both are true and both coexist. Shadow by Carl Jung. Right, our lovely and most definitely not evil witches. Let's move on to even more spiritual wisdom from the shadow work pioneer himself, Carl Jung. And you'll hear his name a lot on our podcasts. Here's 3 of our favourite Jung quotes. And for the Jungians amongst us, you might know these rather well already. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Does that sound a little too familiar? Without healing, our wounds lead our life. We unconsciously allow them to steer our ship, taking with them our ability to properly steer it in the right direction, the one which we truly want to go. A second Jung quote. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. After all, self-awareness helps us navigate both our own struggles and those of others with compassion. Jung believed that everyone has a shadow. He believed that the shadow side contains hidden emotions, impulses, and traits. And he refers to the shadow self as part of our unconscious mind believed to hold all the things about ourselves that we repress, whether that's because they're deemed evil, socially unacceptable, harmful to others, or detrimental to our own health. And when the shadow is ignored, it can reflect its unconscious self into our conscious lives through, shall we say, unhelpful patterns and behaviours, such as triggers, experiencing intense emotional reactions to people and or situations. And rather than the instances being the cause of your negative responses, it often reflects the unhealed parts of you that you've yet to acknowledge or nurture. Another one is self-sabotage. When your actions are guided from repeated harmful patterns, and whether you like it or not, it could indicate hidden fears steering your ship. And projections. Looking at and calling out qualities that you reject for yourself, including calling someone else selfish when you refuse to put your own needs first. Oh dear, why oh why I hear you cry. Well, it's pretty straightforward, witches. The shadow holds on to repressed emotions including anger, fear, and trauma. Sadly, these parts of our unconscious mind, such as anger, sadness, and rage, usually end up acting out in our conscious lives as they strive to be recognized and soothed, but instead they're shamed and repressed. More often than not, as we've said, these traits often develop in childhood, when different sides of your personality are labelled as unacceptable by your parents, the society you live in, or the culture you're growing up in. As time goes on, you may banish these, in a way, demonise aspects or qualities that you possess into your unconscious mind, and you do so to feel part of the pack, to feel loved. Jung often referred to our shadow as the dark side of our personality. Now, shall we move on to some personal experiences of dealing with the shadow? Are your witch hats still looking slay? Glorious. For this witch, the 3 major themes that shaped our shadow self include the witch label of evil, which was given to me by an adult as a young child for not crying the first time I encountered death. Weird, right? 2, the emotion of anger. I was adorned in thorns with this label from a very young age too. I was regularly called hysterical and told that there was something wrong with me when expressing righteous anger. And 3, the emotion of fear. When leading with fear, I made some pretty self-deprecating and very silly decisions. But more on that in future episodes. Let's see. Another negative shadow we may encounter is shame. Now, this could be shame for doing something we regret, or even feeling shame for something that someone else did to us when it wasn't our fault. This is misplaced shame, and when we do so, we're harboring a negative emotion when in fact we need to forgive ourselves and accept that we did what we could do at the time. To release feelings of shame, speaking a daily mirror ritual such as the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono forgiveness prayer could help. This forgiveness prayer originates from Hawaiian tradition. It's a simple yet powerful practice focused on self-healing and reconciliation through the repetition of 4 phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. The word ho'oponopono essentially means to make right or to correct, and it's used in a context of restoring harmony and balance, both within oneself and in relationships. The prayer ritual is used to cleanse negative energies, heal past traumas, and foster inner peace. The ho'oponopono forgiveness prayer helps you to reclaim the power you lost during that time. An example of when to use this could be if someone who felt trapped in an abusive relationship and stayed with their harmful partner, resulting in a lot of trauma, hurt, and shame, wants to forgive themselves for doing so. Here's an example prayer you could use. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry I didn't get us out of there sooner. Thank you for fighting for our life. I forgive you. I love you. Our advice is to write your own prayer, one that matches your experience of shame. Look at yourself in the mirror once a day and repeat the words 3 times. Give it a go and let Witch know how you get on. Now, another type of shadow you may be experiencing without even knowing could be a misplaced label from childhood. As we said, if your caregivers called you evil or bad, you may be unintentionally acting this label out each and every day. An example of evil is gossiping about colleagues, secretly enjoying others' misfortunes, or even harboring feelings of jealousy when a friend writes a book. Something you've wanted to do for years but can't seem to get started. When you realize and accept that you were mislabeled and that the person or people who labeled you as evil or bad were in fact evil and bad themselves, you free yourself from countless hours and days of misplaced self-hatred. And the books will start to flow from your mind onto the paper in a speed and power that you never could have even imagined. Next, we've got some top tips for integrating your shadow, including how you can transmute your pain into power. Number 1. First and foremost, please be kind and gentle with yourself. Shadow work isn't easy. It's not meant to be. Growth only comes from discomfort. You can journal every day. Brain dump those negative thoughts and emotions out of your mind and onto physical pages. We like to do this every single morning, and it's a ritual from the book called The Artist's Way, called The Morning Pages. It's 3 pages of free writing for whatever thoughts are in your brain, and the idea is that you take those negative things, put them onto the paper, and you can focus on more positive things throughout the day. We promise you'll be amazed at how much better you feel when you do this as part of your daily self-care. Another witchy wellness routine we love to do is writing empowering words on post-its, notes, and sticking them on your mirror, phone, or walls. At one of our lowest points in life, we literally wrote things like, "You've got this," "I love you," and "You're a queen" on post-it notes in our bathroom. Seeing these words each and every day reminded us that this too shall pass. Number 2, research Carl Jung's work for yourself. We guarantee that you'll learn important lifelong lessons and find comfort in the discomfort. And last but not least, be present and stay grounded. As we've said, shadow work can be long, difficult, and painful. It can take your mind away from your earthly body, and it can disconnect you from the here and now. Now, obviously, it's great crack to be away with the fairies from time to time, but being in the here and now is the key to living your most magical life. And to stay grounded, we love to take the advice of one of our main spiritual mentors, the man, the myth, the legend, Martin Duffy of Shamanism Ireland. Thanks to Martin, there's only one thing we strive to do each and every day. And no pinky in the brain, it's not trying to take over the world. And no kneecap, you bleeding legends, it's not trying to take drugs. But we do always try to take our daily meds. Now, these aren't physical tablets or prescribed SSRIs from your doctor, which we know that some of us may need, and we've definitely needed them a few times in life, but rather, these are what we call spiritual meds. And think of meds as CAPS, capital M, capital E, capital D, capital S. Here's Martin's super simple, daily 4-step soul feeding routine. M for meditation. This can be anything from shamanic journeying, Reiki, yoga, breathwork, chanting, or extreme temperature changes such as a sauna or cold sea dip. Whatever activity scientifically sends your brain into a different state of usual consciousness is perfect. E for exercise. This is pretty self-explanatory, but at which we always find spending time in nature is the best way to do this. 2 birds and all. D for diet. Being mindful of what you consume. That's food, drink, and even limiting media consumption. Yes, baby witches, that includes time spent on the holy grail of TikTok too. And finally, S, spiritual practice and sleep. The spiritual part can be as simple as listening to a spiritual mentor, reading, praying, or even storytelling to share lessons from your ever-growing spellbook. And sleep-wise, Martin recommends getting at least 8 to 10 hours every single day. We heal while we sleep, both physically and spiritually. MEDS. Give it a go and let us know how you get on. We would absolutely adore to hear from you. So, wonderfully magical and most definitely not evil witches, are you ready? Grab your broomsticks, light the cauldrons, and let's conjure some inner magic to transmute your pain into power. Shadow work is painful and it's difficult. And that's because when we accept the task at hand, we must embrace all parts of us, especially the parts that we fear the most. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you know what? No one can do that without soothing their shadow. And no one's going to do that for you except yourself. So let's finish with these initial steps that you can take to start to soothe your shadow. See yourself with and practice only compassion. When you fully embrace your shadow with kindness versus judgy judgment, you come from a place of love over hate. And we all know that hate is a waste. Take time to self-reflect. It takes energy to identify your triggers, projections, and any repetitive patterns blocking your pathway. Use journaling to express and explore previously rejected parts of you that you might feel ashamed of. And be gentle whilst doing so. And last but not least, speak to your shadow self. Ask what it needs. Have conversations with it at different times and in different situations. And then use the emotions wheel if your shadow is unable to vocalize what it's feeling. It might help spur things on. For those of you who don't know, Google the emotions wheel. This is something that a therapist gave us once as a tool, and it's so useful if you find it difficult to understand what emotions you're feeling outside of anger, love, joy. You get the gist. It's incredible. And ultimately, as you do these things, you become more authentic and you free yourself from the reins of the unconscious patterns holding you back in life. You'll reclaim those until recently lost parts of you. Ones you might not even have remembered you lost. Ones that have been there since childhood, dying to get out. This will lead to beautiful balance and stunning self-acceptance. And as we curtain close on Witch's pilot episode of Start with the Dark, remember that change only occurs when accountability takes place. Think about it. You have to accept who you are, why you are the way you are, and you have to fix it. It's not your fault what happened to you as a child. It's not your fault for lots of things that happened to you as an adult. But it is your responsibility to accept it and fix it. When you're honest with yourself, whether you are right, wrong, or on the fence, you shine a spotlight on your soul for incredible change to occur. On this season of Start with the Dark by Witch, we'll talk about Witchico, a mind virus feeding off fear and suppressing all of our creative abilities. Thanks a million for listening to Witch. We feel blessed that you joined us on this magical chapter. And if you're completely new to the world of Witch, we're sending a big warm welcome to our Witchy Wellness community. To wrap today's episode, and as we know that magic spreads through threads, we're repeating the fact that we're casting a request for any witches interested in sharing their story to reach out to us online. We'd love to hear your ideas for storytelling, whether it's one of our witch hosts reading out your letter, or you featuring on a future episode of Witch as a guest interviewee. Maybe you even have some suggestions of people we should interview on Witch. We want to hear from all witches. You can find us on www.witch.world. And please remember rule number 1 of Witch Life. You've got to put the protection spell on yourself before you even think of putting it on anyone else. Thanks a million. Grab your broomsticks, let's reclaim your witch title, and let's embark on a mission to bring magic to many.